This is a video designed to help you understand how to outline. Let's turn to page 24 in the Blue Physical Science book and outline section 4, Measurement and Safety in Physical Science. A couple suggestions for outlining. Pick a spiffy font. Times New Roman is always good. 12 font is fine. And make your margins as small as possible under the page layout tab. Hopefully you're using this version of Word or can figure out what to do if not. Type a Roman numeral I, a Roman numeral 1, capital I, period, then tab, and then type in, with proper capitalization, the title of the section and hit enter. This is how you start an outline. Notice if you hit tab and then you hold the shift key in and hit tab again, you can bounce back and forth like I've done here. It's best to start with an intro paragraph and then hit enter and tab in. And as I read through the paragraph, I'm going to take out the important information, and I'm not going to copy it word for word. I'm going to use code, I'm going to use an equals sign, dashes, hyphens, etc. More specific information, like the bit about grains of rice in England, will be tabbed in a little bit more than the more general information above it, like hundreds of years ago. Now, one thing you have to do in outlines is if you have a specific example, italicize it. Highlight it, hold down the control key, and press I for italics, and you'll be able to italicize it quickly. And then press it again to make the cursor not italicized. Again, that's control I. So now we're going to tab in and we're going to add more information. And the information on body parts and feet, the foot, is equally as important as the bit about the grains of barley. Notice I've italicized it again and I've lined it up. And now the second paragraph in the introduction talks about a need for a common measurement system. Specifically, the French Academy of Sciences developed it, so that's tabbed in a bit more. Notice the staircase structure along the left side of the outline. The more tabbing in you do, the better it looks, and the more in-depth reading you've done. So now we see the first blue section, which is called the International System of Units. This should line up with the intro paragraph code, which is a lowercase a. One rule of outlining is make sure your blue sections are in capitals. It allows you to see them best. So now I tab in and I enter some information from that paragraph, including some advantages, and I'm going to list those out, tab them in a little bit. And notice it capitalizes for me. It's one good thing. Notice the 1 and 2 are lined up with one another because they're of equal importance. And now I come across this table, figure 21. And let's say that at first I want to insert a table. It's best to put the cursor back and hit enter and now delete the IV, and it leaves you this little space so that you don't mess up the outlining format. So suppose I start to put in a table and then maybe I change my mind and decide I'm not going to put in a table. Instead, I'm going to continue with my outlining. I can put the cursor at the end of the previous line, hit enter, and it gives me all the information that I need in the outline format again. So now I'm going to type in all this information from the table. I'm not going to include all the info from the table. And I'm going to highlight this because it's in bold in the table, and I'm going to hold down Control B to bold it. I'm going to Control I, italicize the information there. And as I continue to type, I notice that I'm suddenly in italics, and that's a little annoying. I've also noticed that the volume section that I've just typed in should be tabbed a little bit back to the left, because length and volume are of equal importance. So notice how I highlight here, and now I'm going to press Control I to un-italicize all that. I'm going to continue with my outlining here. Now I want to do meters cubed. The best way to do that is hold down Control and Shift and then press the equals. And that will give you a little superscript like an exponent. And then press Control, Shift, hold those down, and then press equals again, and it pops the cursor back down. You might want to rewind this part of the video to try that again. So notice I continue here, sampling information from the table. And you can see the structure. Notice the 1s and 2s and 3s line up with each other. And I have on purpose not italicized the examples like I have underneath meter. And there's a reason for that. But first, let me show you how to make a degrees sign. So if I go to Insert and then Symbol, it should bring me to a menu. It's a bit annoying, you sometimes have to scroll through the entire menu, but if you look closely, you may be able to find it. There it is. Now I'm going to shortcut key this. I'm going to assign a shortcut key, and I think F4 would be nice. I have to make sure I click Assign. And now if I press F4 over and over and over again, look what happens. So this is for those symbols that you use often, you can assign to a certain shortcut key. And I've noticed there's a weird space in there between the degrees and the capital C, and I think for some reason my outline has shifted into a new font. So I'm going to check that out in a second. And I'm going to highlight the evil regions, and I'm going to go up there and remind my evil computer to stay in Times New Roman. Outlining can be a bit weird sometimes. Computer has a mind of its own. So notice that I have all these terms that should be in bold. I'm going to hold the Control key down as I highlight each of them, and then press Control B to bold them. And now I'm going to hold the Control key down again without letting go of it, and it allows me to highlight multiple things. And now I can press Control I to italicize all of them instead of doing it over and over. So now we get to the first, this is at the top of page 25, we get to the first, what's called a green section. And it's called length, but the font in the book is smaller than the font of the blue section it's in. So we have to make sure we tab that length title in a little bit more than the lowercase b way up above it, which marks the blue section that it's in. Again, the green sections live inside the blue sections, so they should be tabbed in more than the blue section. And notice I'm including some information here from the top of page 25. And there is a vocabulary term in your text that's printed in purple. So now I come upon another symbol that I don't often see. It's the Greek letter. And the Greek letter is called mu. So I happen to remember that it's a Greek letter because I learned that somewhere. So I'm going to find Greek letters here in the menu. And it's going to bring me to the Greek alphabet section. And I'm going to match it up with the symbol that's in the text. I'm going to insert that little Greek letter. And then I'm going to italicize, Control I, because this is an example. And again, I'm stuck in italicized mode, like before. So now I'm going to type in the title of the next green section, which is volume, Make sure I underline the green section title. That's another rule of outlining, underline the green section. It allows you to see the green sections better and how they compare to the blue sections. So I'm not going to add specifics here from the outline. You'll get a chance to do that. But notice I am going to include information from figure 22 at the bottom of page 25 because it is important. Try not to skip the figures. They're actually very useful. So we have, now I'm on page 26, we have mass and temperature, the final green sections. And notice they're all lined up with each other. Length, volume, mass, temperature are all of equal importance, so they all live in the same column. And now we come to the next, second blue section called derived quantities, and this must line up with the previous blue section from way back, and it must be in capitals. And you would, of course, continue on with your outline. So, as you're outlining, as you're outlining, pay very close attention to what sections are blue and what sections are green. And I'm just going to highlight this blue so you can see it better. This is not a requirement. If you wish to add color, that's certainly fine, but so you see that the blue sections are lined up with each other, and the green sections are lined up with each other. They're all equal importance. So within a blue section, all the green sections ought to line up with one another.